everybody, and welcome back to Brew It or Screw It for episode 1. We are a Magic the Gathering Commander podcast. I'm your host, Cody, alongside my good friend, Lazz.
Hey, how's it going?
Lazz, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited to be here for episode 1.
Me too. A little nervous, but should be good.
I feel like we're always nervous, you know?
Yeah, so far, 2 for 2.
Yeah. So, hey, this is episode 1. We did an episode 0. If you have not listened to that, it's okay. Go back and listen to it after this. So Brew It or Screw It is a commander deck building show where once a month, one of us brings a deck and the other one brings some ideas to improve it. We talk about like why we built it, what we want to do with it. And at the end, we ask the question, should we say brew it or screw it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. This should be a good episode. This is kind of our first attempt at doing the point of this show. This is kind of going to be what dictates kind of how the series goes, how the show goes, and kind of show us if this format works. Of one of us bringing a deck and the other person critiquing it, and this is kind of it's a very good episode to start on. Episode 1's a good place to start, I think, too. So
yeah, you know, a lot of people would say that. If you did listen to episode 0, we talked about a format for the show where, you know, every month we would bring up a deck, and at the end of the year, we would sit down and pick a deck and brew it. After some thinking, we kind of thought about it, and some friends weighed in, and they were like, that doesn't really make sense, because, like, what if you build a deck and you really love it? You don't want to wait a year to build it. So we're going to change up the format of the show. I know it's episode 1, but we're changing things already. So now, if we really love a deck and we decide to brew it at the end, we have the option of brewing it, and then we're going to do an update episode down the line once we have built it and play tested it to give you guys an update. Give you guys, you know, did we add more cards? Did we take out some cards? Things like that. And we think that'll be really fun, and more podcasts for you guys to listen to. Always a good time.
And I don't know if you do the same thing, Cody, but whenever I make a new deck, I have a little notepad in the front there, and I write the deck, what it is, and you damn right I write down every time it wins. And so if it's got any special notes of how it won, or if it won in a fun combo or something, I write that down. So you know, when we do, if we do end up making a deck that we discuss on this show, you know, that'll definitely be in the update as well. How much it's won, more likely how much it's lost, why it lost, what it struggled against, and whatnot. So it'll be fun to have those little filler episodes if we do build a deck that, you know, we discuss on the show, that just because we end up liking it so much.
I think it'll be able for us to sit down and be like, well, hey, you know, when we recorded the episode, the deck sounded great, but then once I got it in my hands and played with it, I was like, this is just not what I want to play. This is not the kind of deck style I like. And so I think it'll be really good to keep the listeners updated on everything we do with it.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's an update of the format we're going to do. Thank you guys so much for everyone who's supported us so far on episode 0 and on Twitter and all that. You can follow us on Twitter at Brew It or Screw It. And as always, we're a new podcast, so any follow, like, subscribe you can give us helps get the show out there to people.
Absolutely.
And so thank you if you did that already. Lazz, how's your week been?
Week's been good. It's been a good week. Well, we had Destiny just came out with new expansion, so been playing that a bit. We got some Magic in this week as well. I think we played the other night. Played Griswold. I think I played my Rats deck. Was the other deck I played. I don't think I won either of those matches, but they were very competitive matches. I remember I was definitely in it till the end, but
yeah,
you know, just other people know how to play the game better. Better luck.
Yeah, I played Mono Black Artifacts, which I won that game, and then I played Minsk and Boo, and I came close to winning that game. It was a very hard fought game.
Yeah.
For lots of back and forth.
Yeah, that was
lots of weird deals being made about dinosaurs hitting people, but you know,
too many politics, and I think I could have. I don't know if I could have won. I definitely could have beat you, but my math was a little bit off. I think I targeted one of your creatures instead of just, you know, going all in. It's scary sometimes to just turn everything sideways and try to take someone out, but you know, I bit me in the ass for not doing it.
I think I texted you and our friend Nick a few days later, being like, "I'm pretty sure I could have won that game."
Yeah.
I didn't think about it, but I'm pretty sure I could have. It's always fun to look back on games you played and how you played and could you have done better. And so that's always fun.
Yeah, like I said, I keep a little note. If I screwed something up or if I forgot or maybe I didn't realize an interaction that could have helped me in the situation, I'll definitely make a note of that. So hopefully I don't make the same stupid mistake 2 times in a row, because that would be embarrassing.
But yeah.
How about you?
So,
how was your week? I know you. I think you even took off of work to play Destiny.
I did. I'm luckily at a job now where I have a lot of PTO, so I can take time off when I want to. And so I was like, you know what? I don't usually take off for video game releases, but I'm going to do it this time. I think last year I was sick for Destiny's big release, but this time I was like, I'm going to take a day off. And I needed it. I work in a warehouse, and last week and this week was just like, we're starting to get summer weather down here in Louisiana, and it's just miserable when you work in a warehouse that has no air circulation at times.
I would like to raise you one complaint of working in a warehouse when it's 27 degrees outside, because that's my situation.
I would prefer that every day for the rest of my life.
It was 27 here this past week.
Oh my gosh.
Freezing up here.
Yeah. But yeah, good. We got the games in. I've been playing a lot of Destiny. Today I played a ton of Destiny. We tried out the Wayfinders beta.
Well, you can't talk about that. You're going to get us demonetized, NDAs.
Shit, you're right. We cannot talk about that. I did not play that. What are you talking about?
I've never even heard of it. I think that's a website that sells furniture.
Yeah. A good week, Been looking forward to this all week. And so, yeah.
I've been nervous because I was up first, so I built a deck, I brewed it, I put it all on Moxfield, and it was very, very hard to not go through and make tweaks throughout the week. Because I kept, the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't need this. Maybe I didn't want to touch it too much, though, because, when I hand you a perfected deck, and you look at it and you say, there's nothing I can do. It's already as good as it can be. Then we don't have a show. So I left a couple of duds in there. A couple of rough drafts. Threw a couple of cards in there that don't match the color identity. See if see if
I notice.
Yeah, see if you notice.
Random mono red card in here.
It's strange, real strange. You have lightning bolt in there.
Yeah.
So it was very hard to not tweak it, and I'm very curious if some of the changes that popped up in my head made it to your notes there. I want to see if you kind of had the same thoughts, or who knows, maybe you decide to take some, cards in a different direction. So very curious to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Lazz, without further ado, introduce the deck.
Let's talk about the deck. Well, the deck starts with a good name. You need to have a good name if you're going to have a good deck. I learned that from you, Cody.
Yes.
Before
I was gonna say, who'd you learn that from?
From you. Before that, I had, the Griswold deck or the Kalia deck. But now I'm like, if I'm gonna be doing this, if I'm gonna be putting these deck lists up on Moxfield, which by the way, use Moxfield for all your deck building needs. See if we can get that subscription. That free promotion. So I put it up on there, but the deck of the month is called Hotline Swing in Drakes. The commander is Alandra Sky Dreamer. It's a mono blue legendary merfolk wizard. So it's a very fun command. I guess I'll just read the text. My big complaint about trying to do a Magic podcast was I don't want to just be sitting here reading cards off. But for the commander, I think it's worth it. It's two colorless and 2 blue. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Whenever you draw your 5th card each turn, Alandra Sky Dreamer and Drakes you control each get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So it's mono blue, card draw, a little bit of tribal in there if you could kind of
Yeah.
a little bit of Drake tribal. So it seemed like a good deck, and that's kind of what I brewed for the month. So I'm not sure if we should do the breakdown now or if you want to
So,
talk.
how did you find this commander? Because when you sent me this, I was like, oh my god, drawing your 5th card every turn? That sounds miserable. There's no way it's going to happen. But after you showed me the deck, I was like, oh, he can make this happen. Okay, all right.
Well, the reason I did it is because I'm sure I mentioned it in the last episode too. Is blue is by far my least played color. I just not a fan of blue. I hate counter spells, even though my friend tries to explain, he's like, it's the same as just swordsing someone's creature if you just counter it instead. It's not. If it hurts, it feels different. So I don't really play blue. It's not really my play style. I tend to play very, very aggressively. I like to get first blood. I like to, get my creatures out there. I like to tap out more than I really should. And this deck kind of goes against all of that. This deck is very patient, which I'm very curious to try. I have a hard time in a lot of my decks with card draw. I seem to always be down to 1 or 2 cards in hand, and that also just has to do with a lot of the color. I pretty much put white as the staple in all my decks. I love white, but card draw does not have all that much. So I saw this commander because I was looking. I'm like, let me play a mono blue commander, and I was going through my cards and came across this one. I'm like, all right, so we have lots of card draw. We're gonna have to keep a lot of mana open, which, like I said, is something I'm not used to. So I just really wanted to try it, and once I started brewing it and looking up cards, I was like, this seems like it might be really fun, actually. And more importantly, it looks like I'll have quick turns because I'm going to need to keep so much mana up. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I brewed this deck.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it and like playtesting it a little bit, like it's a really cool deck, and it does feel like you can pretty consistently get at least a 2/2 Drake out each turn, and there's those 1 or 2 turns where you get that 5th card draw, and out of nowhere you're getting +7/+7 on 2 creatures, and I could see this deck doing really good.
I'm hoping so. Let's put it this way: it doesn't seem like the type of deck that I would play. So this seems like the deck that someone else would play, and why not me? I figured maybe this will awaken something in me. But
You're just gonna become the mono blue guy.
Mono blue guy, and I really enjoy playing mono decks sometimes. Because you can kind of sneak some kind of like devotion type stuff in there. Cards that care about either devotion or care about basic land types, and I was able to put some of those in here because it's kind of synergy that you wouldn't think about. A deck that focuses around card draw and making drakes, and then all of a sudden you have cards in hand that deal damage based upon how many islands you have, and stuff like that. So you're able to kind of sneak in some of those little side win cons or those side cards based off your devotion. So that was another reason I decided to kind of go mono blue. Figure if I'm gonna do it, just dive head first, and that'll kind of give me some more options to get some other types of cards in the deck list.
Yeah, and I mean, it's everything you put into it. I'm really proud of. I think you built a really good deck here. So when we get later into cards I suggest, just know that I think this is a really good deck.
I'm gonna take offense to every suggestion you make, warning you ahead of time.
All right. I mean, what can I say?
But for the people that are kind of just listening to this and don't have the card right in front of them, the goal for the deck is actually very simple, and you kind of were talking about it a little bit. It's to try to draw at least 2 cards every turn. Every turn that you draw your second card, you make that Drake. And the thing about the Drake, it's It's great. It's a 2/2, so it's it's got a little toughness on there, a little strength on there, and it's flying as well. So it's good for swinging in if someone doesn't have flyers or if someone doesn't have reach, and it's also good for being able to chump block some of these larger, dragons or angels or demons that people might be trying to come at you with. You'll be able to have chump blocks, kind of worst case scenario.
Which is really good because in our play group, like many people play dragons, so being able to block those is going to be important for you.
Yeah, it really is, and so it's very simple. Just try to get two draws each turn. So because of that, lots of instants in this deck, lots of instants and lots of leaving mana up. Also, something about this deck that's much different from my normal playstyle is there's not a lot of creatures in this deck. I like to play usually very creature heavy decks, and this is not really that. So I really have to rely on that card draw to build up my board state, because I think was there 10 or 11 creatures or something. It's really not
15 creatures.
15 creatures. Okay, until your cuts,
I mean, my cuts would add.
So it's going to be relying on that card draw a lot. And then once I feel I have enough drakes, or if I feel a board wipe's coming, or if someone's quickly becoming the threat, you have enough cards, or a couple of creatures that you do have allow you to just, draw X amount of cards. X making it 5 or more, and all your creatures get huge based on how many cards you have in hand. So there's a lot of cards in here that make it so I have no maximum hand size. So I'm hoping, if everything goes well with this deck, that I'll be playing with a full grip of like 30 cards in hand, and and just being able to wheel out and give everything plus 30 on my flying little drakes here and cause some devastation.
Yeah,
it's the plan.
I mean, it's a good solid plan. I think you can get it done. So, so I took the liberty of breaking down the deck. You probably have watched like deck building videos or listened to podcasts before where they break down like the lands, the ramp, the card advantage. So I took the liberty of doing that. So looking at it, this deck consists of 35 lands, 8 pieces of ramp, 38 cards that'll let you draw cards or give you no maximum hand size.
It relies on it heavily, I said.
Heavily. 38 pieces is good. 8 pieces of removal, 2 board wipes.
I kept the board wipes low because I am trying to keep my drakes out there as much as possible. And I'm kind of hoping that any major threats I'll be able to handle with my army of drakes. Because they're flying too, that handles any flying threats that there might be. And sometimes if things kind of get out of hand, I'll be able to wipe the board, hopefully, and I'll have like 30 cards in hand. Chances are I'll have at least one of them. That's kind of my thinking.
And luckily, you're in mono blue. You have access to a lot of counter spells, so if someone else tries to board wipe you, you're pretty safe. And so
yeah.
All right. Lazz, why don't we go over some of your favorite cards that you put in the deck? I know you said you picked out about one of each.
Yeah, what I did is I went through and I just picked out one of each card type that is kind of a card that I'm really hoping I draw into, or a card that I'm kind of hoping will either win me the game or definitely establish my my presence on the battlefield there. So the first card that I'm starting with is I'm gonna kill this name because I never played D&D. Is it Mordenkainen? Yeah, he's the one that you Dungeons and Dragons. He can make a little house that you can sleep in, whatever. Yeah. So he's a planeswalker. And he is from what's that? Was he from? That's AFR. Forgotten Realms. Yeah. Planeswalker is +2, draw 2 cards, put a card from your hand onto the bottom of your library. That'll be good if you just want to get a Drake out there because you're drawing 2 cards. What I really like is his -2 ability, which is create a blue dog illusion creature token with this creature's power toughness are equal to twice the number of cards in your hand. So like I said, the goal for this is to get a lot of cards in your hand. So even if you have 10 cards in hand and you do this, now you're making a 20/20, dog illusion creature token. It doesn't have flying, it doesn't have trample, so that's not ideal, but it's going to be something big and something to either chump block or swing in and deal some serious damage. And the good thing is, too, he comes in with 5 loyalty counters, and that's a -2. So even if you do that and then someone kills it, you can do it one more time. And +2, if you want to get your drakes as well, I'm hoping to kind of not use him for the getting drakes, but if you have to, he's there to do it. I think a fun thing to do, as I name my pet cards, is to immediately kick it over to you and say, did it make the cut? Is it staying in the deck? Or you don't have to go into detail. You just gotta say, is it staying in or no?
I cut it.
Son of a bitch. We'll see about that. All right, next card. For creatures, I actually picked. I know I said I was gonna do one of each, but I actually picked 2 cards because, they both kind of do the same thing, and I kind of really like it. The first being Body of Knowledge, which is an avatar creature. Its power toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. You also have no maximum hand size, and whenever this creature is dealt damage, you draw that many cards. Hoping to have a lot of cards in hand.
Card.
This could be a big creature. It gives me no maximum hand size, and if he ever attacks and gets blocked, or even if he's blocking something else, I'm going to be drawing a ton of cards. The other card was Psychosis Crawler, which is from Jumpstart 22, the new Jumpstart. And its power toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So that also kind of be good for creating a big creature. And then also, if you get this out there early enough, you're going to really be hurting all your opponents when you're drawing all these cards.
Yeah, that's really strong. Yeah, both these cards are really good. I like them both. They made
it. All right.
They made it.
Ooh.
They made it.
All right. So I'm only a little mad still. All right. Sorcery. I picked Spectral Deluge. So where the heck did that card go? Oh, that's instance. That's why I can't find it. Spectral Deluge. It's return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. You can also foretell it for 2, and then you just have to pay 1 and a blue during your turn, and you'd be able to cast that. I think that's great because since it's a mono blue deck, I have 35 islands in here. You're going to be able to kind of return a lot of creatures. It's a very one-sided board wipe. Unless people have something incredibly massive, you should be able to bounce back a lot of creatures that are going to be, 10, 15 power toughness, back to their hands. Or, toughness back to their hands, because you're pretty much only going to have islands. So that was the sorcery that I picked as a card. And I don't know.
That one didn't make.
Come on. All right.
We'll go over it. Hey, I got explanations for everything.
Okay, you're gonna say put Cyclonic Rift in there or something.
Nope.
All right. Let's on to the next card that Cody cut. Probably, I have Flow of Knowledge for my instant. So Flow of Knowledge is right there. Draw a card for each island you control, then discard 2 cards. It's a 5-cost instant. This is from the new Brothers War set. I think that's great for a 5-cost. Like I said, there's 35 islands in this deck. Even if you spend your 5 mana to cast this, you're still drawing 5 cards, discarding 2. That's enough right there to get all your drakes, to be huge, and also just more cards in hand to deal with any threats or, draw more cards for your next turn. So this is an instant I think kind of really helps the deck.
It made my cut.
Perfect.
I think, it's a very good card.
Okay. All right, we're doing good so far.
I
Artifact.
feel like we're going back and forth, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
This one,
Hey, I'm curious to see now because, like I said, some of these cards I really liked, so I'm curious to see what you changed. Artifact. I have the Magic Mirror. This is a fun card here. It's expensive. It's 6 and 3 blues, but it costs 1 less for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard, which hopefully you can get, pretty cheap because you have, 22 instants and 6 sorceries in here. So I'm hoping by the time you get this or want to play this that you should hopefully have enough. And what it does, you have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. Then you draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. So if you have this out here for a couple of turns, you're just drawing more and more cards. You draw 1 card, then 2, then 3, then 4, until someone gets rid of it. So the whole time it's out there, you have no max hand size, and unless it's addressed with, you're just going to keep on drawing cards. And then if you get crazy lucky or everyone else gets unlucky and, you can't get rid of it before you've had it for 5 turns, then pretty much every upkeep you're drawing 5 cards, making all your drakes enormous and swinging in, doing some damage, hopefully. So I put that in there, and
it did not make my cut.
All right. Ouch. All right. This is actually kind of, maybe we should have gone over this first. We were debating if we were going to on the air discuss cuts and all that, or if we wanted to be surprised, and we decided on being surprised, and I'm quite surprised. But like I said, I tried my hardest not to tinker with this deck, so I know there's improvements in there, and I'm really looking forward to see what you got. Let's see. So 2 more. Enchantment. I have Kindred Discovery. It is let's see. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It's going to be Drakes, and whenever a creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. Hopefully, you're going to be getting a Drake each turn. Each time you do, you're going to be drawing another card. And then whenever they attack, or if you attack with multiples of them, then you're going to be drawing lots of cards. So I thought this was a neat little enchantment. And
it does make a cut. I also think you have plenty of wizards in the deck that you could also, if just seeing how your game plan's going, like how your cards look in hand, I think you could go wizards here as well, because you do have plenty of wizards.
Okay. Maybe.
So
that's good. We'll get into that more. And the last thing I picked is a land. I didn't want to say Reliquary Tower. That is in the deck, but every deck should have a Reliquary Tower in it regardless. But the card I picked for a land is Riptide Laboratory, which just tap for a colorless, or you can also tap it for a 1 and a blue, return target wizard you control to your hand. I thought that was kind of a good land to have in there because it protects your commander, because your commander is a wizard. So you just pay 2, tap this, bring it to your hand if there's a board wipe or targeted removal, or any of the other wizard creatures that you have in here. And good thing about it, you don't have to sacrifice it. Sometimes there's cards, land cards, tap, sack, and return target creature. This is just pay 1 in a blue, tap it, and you can return a wizard to your hand. So I just thought that was a neat little land card that kind of has a little synergy with the deck, just simply because there's so many wizards in it, even though it's a Drake deck. And
it's a very good card.
And that's my deck. So rate my deck.
I think it's a very good deck. I have a couple I wanted to call out as really good. Consecrated Sphinx is, just a very good card in general. I think it's especially good in this deck because technically on each opponent's upkeep, you're making a Drake each turn.
Yeah.
Because you're drawing 2 cards. And so that's a great way to fill your board out. So that's a really good card to have. Windfall is a card I just saw the other day. I forget who played it, but I love that card so much because it helped me out a ton. It's a nice little politic card, kind of, because you can be like, well, hey, is your hand looking too bad? Here you go.
Well, I also think it's great in this deck, too, because you can kind of use it as a, kind of to hurt people, too, because say I have 20 cards in hand and nothing in there is terribly necessary, or I already have a pretty good handle on the game, I can make myself I can discard that, and now everyone has to draw 20 cards. And if other people don't have, unlimited hand sizes or whatever, then they're going to be discarding a lot of stuff, and they're going to have to make some tough choices there. So it's most people don't like drawing 20 cards. I love it. I do it every chance I get. I like to, even if I know I'm going to have to discard 13 of them, I'll do it. But I know other people are not as big of a fan of that. So it kind of, I figure you can use it offensively or kind of, like you said, politics. So.
Yeah. And last card I'll shout out is Wizard class. I love the class cards that they came out with in Dungeons and Dragons. I think they're a lot of fun, and Wizard class fits this theme very well for your deck. So good job, Les. Yeah. I think it's a really great deck.
All right. Wizard class, real quick. You have no max hand size. Upgrade it. You draw 2 cards. And when you upgrade it the last time, whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So if this is, it costs 1. It's a 1 blue cost spell. This get that out there early enough and get it to level 3. Every time you're drawing these cards, you're pumping something up huge, even if it's your commander to try swinging for commander damage or any of these other cards in here. So yeah, I thought that I liked that card in there. I don't use those class cards as much as I probably should.
They're fun. I like them a lot. I sadly just took out Bard class from Misk and Boo because it just didn't really fit anymore. So, but yeah. So those are Laz and I's favorite cards from the deck. Laz, we're going to start soft. I'm going to pitch you the cards I think you should add to the deck.
Okay.
All right. So one thing, when we were going over the stats, a thing I noticed was your ramp is kind of low.
Shocker.
At 8 pieces. But you are in mono blue, so it's kind of tougher, so you kind of got to look out there. So I got 2 creatures that I think would help out a ton. One is Burnished Heart, 3 colorless mana. It's a 2/2 artifact creature. You pay 3 to sack it, and you search your library for 2 basic lands, and you put them on the battlefield tap, and then you shuffle. Kind of just, simple, get a couple lands.
Your basic ramp.
Creature.
Yeah.
Yeah, basic ramp creature. Same with Solemn Simulacrum. It enters, you find a basic land, but it also draws you a card, so it synergizes a little bit with what you're trying to do.
You want the sad robot in there. All right.
The sad robot. And then I have 2 artifacts that are considered ramp.
Okay.
Very simple. Sky Diamond, 2 mana. It enters battlefield tapped. Tap it for a blue. Just another mana rock. And the other one is going to be Midnight Clock, which I love this card. It's 2 colorless and a blue for an artifact. You tap it to add blue, or you can pay 2 colorless and a blue to put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. And it reads, at the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, you shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, and then draw 7 cards, and you exile Midnight Clock.
Okay.
So that's the ramp I'm bringing you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
That's good. Yeah, Burnished Heart, Solemn Sad Robot. He's
Sad Robot.
Good additions, mana rocks as well. Like I even mentioned last week, I have a hard time, and we could discuss that later. Of my deck's not really having enough ramp or enough mana because I hate cutting cool shit to put in, Sky Diamonds or something like that. But if it's what the deck needs, and I like those, those additions. As far as Midnight Clock, yeah, that's a real cool artifact to put in there. I'm looking at it now. Put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. 12 ones put on there. Shuffle your hand, graveyard, draw 7 cards. That's great for getting back a lot of your instants and your sorceries. Because there's not a lot of recursion in the deck, so it's kind of a good way to get a lot of those draw spells back into your hand. And also, you draw 7 cards. You're pumping up your drakes and kind of making everything big. So I definitely like that. I do think if we're going to keep, Midnight Clock, keep Magic Mirror, I don't know, I feel like they got a little synergy there with the hour counters and whatnot.
Sure.
But I like that.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, those are the pieces I was looking at just to help out with the ramp, because you are doing mono blue, and so it's tougher to get ramp out there, and we want to try to do that as much as we can to make sure that you'll be able to play some of these bigger cards. I mean, Consecrators being 6 mana, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very very expensive cards in the deck, unfortunately. But hopefully, got so much cards in hand and card draw that you'll never have to be wanting for mana. So,
yeah.
But yeah, more ramp and kind of burnished heart and stuff like that. That definitely wouldn't hurt to get a little extra card draw, a little extra land draw in there. So no, I like that.
Yeah. Next, so I also got some creatures here because as you said, it's a little light on creatures because you're making creatures instead. Mm-hmm. But I did have a couple that I really found would synergize really well. One of such is Chasm Skulker. It's 2 colors and a blue for a squid horror creature. Whenever you draw a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on Chasm Skulker. And when Chasm Skulker dies, you create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Chasm Skulker. I think that just works really well if you can get this out early, and then you're just, windfalling, drawing lots of cards. This thing gets really big, and then it dies, and you're still left with a board presence. Because now you have all these 1/1s that can block. If someone's running blue, they get the hit for free. It's a really good card.
Yeah, it's 2 and a blue. So, I haven't seen this card before, but 2 and a blue, that's really not bad. You get this out early, like you said. You're drawing 2 cards, so every turn he's hopefully getting 2 +1/+1 counters on him, and you should be able to make a bunch of little blockers or even just annoying little guys with Island Walk if someone else is running blue. So that's a nice card. That gets added.
Okay, thanks. See, not so bad.
That's all right.
Next up, I love this cycle of cards so much. It's I'm gonna recommend Defiler of Dreams. These Defiler cards I think are really good because you can choose to pay life instead of mana. So Defiler of Dreams is 3 colorless, 2 blue for a Phyrexian Sphinx. It has flying. As an additional cost to cast blue permanent spells, you can pay 2 life. Those spells cost blue less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of blue mana you pay. Then, whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, you draw a card. So you got your card draw, but also a little bit of ramp because you can pay life instead of paying the cost of stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's Sorry, I'm reading it too as you're reading these out. I'm reading them too, and
yeah,
you kind of.
I just think it helps you. It's 5 mana, but it can help you start to draw more cards. It can help you pay for stuff that you have in hand. If you're looking at some big mana value cards in hand, I think it just would help you out a lot. It's flying, so it gets over a lot of creatures. Just kind of there,
And yeah, it'll kind of help. With the cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card. Yeah, that's I like that too. And it's another Sphinx. Look at that. It's Sphinx Drake Tribal. Sphinx Drake Wizard Tribal.
There you go. You got all the tribal you want.
Who knew?
All right. Next up. This might be my favorite one that I found.
Okay.
This is Jace's Archivist. This is 1 colorless, 2 blue for a Vidalcan wizard creature. And it reads, pay a blue and tap. Each player discards his or her hand and then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player's discarded this way. So this is just windfall on a body. And I think that rules because, you can have a blocker and just before it dies to damage, you can pay the blue, tap it, and everyone has to change their hands. You get a bunch more Drakes out. If your commander's on the field, just a really decent card. And if, people leave it up for a couple turns, you're just filling up the board with Drakes because you can technically do this on everybody's turn.
Just piss everybody off by making them discard their hand every single time.
I mean, hey, we're trying to win.
Hey, I like this too also just because, like I said, if you have a lot of the cards in hand and then you do this, you're forcing people to go through and and have to cut a lot of cards of what they're going to keep. If someone has to draw 15 cards or something and they have to keep 7, they have to dump some of these and got to make some hard cuts. I like forcing hard decisions onto people, and that's a hard decision. That's why I hate Cyclonic Rifts so much, because it bounces everything back to your hand, and it's like you don't know what you can only keep 7 things, and you might have had a lot of artifacts, enchantments, your creatures, and a lot of stuff out there, and it kind of forces tough decisions. So yeah, cards like this, Jace's Archivist and Windfall, kind of definitely play into that. So I like it. And he's a wizard too. I can use that special land to save him if someone tries to target him. I could tap him, use him, bounce him back to my hand, and then put him right back out there. So that's I like that. It's very nice.
All right. Next up, we talked when you were building this deck about alternate win cons and how you do not like Thassa's Oracle, and so I think I found the next best thing. This is Laboratory Maniac. He's a 2 colorless, 1 blue for a human wizard creature. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. This is pretty much just, hey, game's going long, I'm getting real low on my cards. Let me slap this down, drop a Windfall, draw the rest of my deck. Oh, I'm drawing 8. I only have 6 cards in my deck. I win the game. I think this is just a nice kind of alternate win con that it might happen. It might not.
Yeah. Hey, and it's cheap enough. It's a 3-cost 2/2, and it's a wizard. You can protect it. If it's out there and someone sees your deck in a little bit low, that's kind of a nice option too. So yeah, I don't really like the Thassa's Oracle combo just because I don't know. I'm not a big fan of like the 2-card combo. 2 cards to win a game. Pretty much, yeah. It feels a little cheap. I think I only run 1 2-card combo in any of my decks, and that's Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses life. Whenever someone loses life, you gain that much life, and just infinite loop. So and the only reason I play it now is because I spent all that money buying those cards, and so I'm not putting them in a box. But that was when I was new to Magic, and I was like, 2-card combo, that's awesome. And it's just not a very feels-good type of thing for me, at least. So, no, this is kind of good to kind of slap it down, and, hey, if it happens, it happens. So that's definitely a fun card in there. So, yeah, I like it. I like it, Cody. I'm liking this.
All right. Thank you. My last creature I'm just going to recommend we add is Mole Drifter, which is 4 colorless and a blue for a creature elemental that has flying. When Mole Drifter enters the battlefield, you can draw 2 cards. It also has Evoke for 2 colorless and a blue. You may cast a spell for its Evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. Just a kind of easy way, 3 mana, get 2 cards. It's one of the creatures I was kind of iffy on, but it is drawing you 2 cards, so technically you're netting 2 cards in hand and another Drake. It also could be used for a cheap little way to get you to 5 cards if you've already drawn 3 that turn. That's kind of where I was at with it. I've seen you play before, I believe in Animar, so that's kind of where I was coming at.
I literally just had to check my deck list because I feel like an idiot that this wasn't in there. So
okay, hey, there you go.
that's why I do this. Yeah, that's a great card. That's enters, you draw 2 cards, or you can even just evoke it for 3. And like you said, if you're already, if you've already drawn 2 or 3 cards that turn, or like 3 or 4 cards, and then you just kind of get this out there, draw 2 more, and that just pushes you right over the edge to be able to swing in with everything. So yeah, that I feel silly for not having that in there. I have I have to add that right away. I even have the fun art that they did for, I forget what charity it was, where they had kids draw the different arts.
Extra Life.
Yeah, the Extra Life there. So I even have the fun one too. So
well, there you go.
By all means, it's going in there.
All right. Okay, so that was all the creatures I wanted to add. I got 2 sorceries I want to show you. First one is going to be called Inundate. It is 3 colorless, 3 blue for a sorcery. And it just says return all non-blue creatures to their owner's hands. I guess you could consider this like a cyclonic rift, but it really just benefits you.
Yeah, it's just a bounce. Just a nice.
Just a bounce. Yeah, just bounces everything. If someone tries to counter it, you're already in blue, so you can counter their counter spell. Just kind of one of the replacements I had for one of the board wipes we talked about, and I think it's a good one. I mean, it's 6 mana, so it is kind of costly, but hopefully we can. By the time we're at 6 mana in the game, you can play it and it gets some benefit.
Okay. Hey, more board wipes. I go. So what board wipe was this to kind of replace? Oh, the Spectral Deluge. Is that the one?
Spectral Deluge, yes. Just because. Let's wait till we get to the cuts.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
go over why I didn't like Spectral Deluge, but yeah. My other sorcery is actually a sorcery and a land. It's a MDFC.
Okay.
It is Seagate Restoration. So on the sorcery side, it's a 4 mana, four colorless mana, 3 blue mana for a sorcery that reads: draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand plus 1. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. That is a ton of card draw if you got a full grip.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're set for the rest of the game about not have to worry about your no maximum hand size. It is 7 mana, so it is a little costly.
Yeah.
Which I like that the fact that you can turn it over and it's a land. And so if you get it early and you just like, I need the land, you can flip it over for the land. It enters tapped, unfortunately, unless you pay 3 life. But I like these MDFCs because you either can get the cool benefit or you can get the land out of it.
Yeah, and I saw that card, and I did like it, but like you said, it is fairly costly, and I know I had a lot of cards in there that also provided the no maximum hand size buff, but that's that's definitely worth revisiting if that's going in the deck too. Like I said, I was very tempted to go back and tinker with the deck as we went on, and some of the cards that you did mention actually were on there. Was it Laboratory Maniac and the Seagate Restoration are definitely 2 cards that I really wanted to go in there and add, but like I said, I kind of want to leave some room for improvement too, just because I make a tight deck, Cody. You have to admit. So I wanted
it's a very good deck.
So I wanted to make sure there's some cards and some room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. I'm just joking around. I'm bad at building decks, but no, that's a good card, and that's definitely something I'll probably be adding to this, because like you said, that's just insane card draw, and then it's practically an emblem. No more hand size for the rest of the game. So it'd be silly not to put that in there.
Yeah, for sure. And I have one instant that I would recommend. This is probably like one of my favorite cards in the game. It's super cheap. I mean, it does give the person you played against some benefit, but I think it's just one of the best counter spells in the game. It's an offer you can't refuse, which is 1 blue mana for an instant that reads: counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. I like this because if you know someone has a board wipe coming when you just set up, or someone has a card that you got to get rid of, you only have to hold open 1 mana for this. Yes, you are giving them some treasure tokens, but I would say 2 treasure tokens is completely worth countering.
Cyclonic
Farewell,
Rift, Exile,
Cyclonic Rift, all the big creature cards like Dragon, like. For 1 mana, you're countering that?
It's non-creature.
Well, non-creatures, you're right, sorry. So, this big mana spell is that someone's like been saving up mana to play finally. You get to counter it, and it's 1 mana, so it's really easy to get off.
Yeah, it's a 1 mana counter spell. So, hey, definitely keeps everything safe, and of course, countering a non-creature spell for 2 treasure tokens. That's if that protects your whole board, then that's a trade you make every day, and I like that. It's on the list. I have all these cards now I have to add. How am I going to add these cards? I'm already at 100.
If only someone was going to suggest some cuts.
All right, let's hear it. Let's see you break my heart with some of these.
I got 3 more cards to recommend.
Oh, 3 more cards. All right.
I went 15 recommendations in 10 cuts. I felt like that was a nice trade off because like what if some of these cards you didn't like that I suggested, things like that.
Smart. I like that.
I got 2 artifacts I want to throw at you real quick. We got Library of Lang, 1 colorless mana for an artifact that reads, you have no maximum hand size. If an effect causes you to discard a card, you may discard it, but you can put it on the top of your library instead of into your graveyard. So, my thought process behind this card is A, you get the no maximum hand size for 1 mana out early. You benefit from your Jace's Archivist, your Windfall. Also, we have a friend in our play group who plays a Nekusar who likes to wheel, counters the wheels. I just think it's a decent card. It's 1 mana, and it gives you a bunch of benefits. Say, you Windfall, but there's something in your hand that you want to keep. You put it back on top, and you're set.
Okay. I have never seen this card before in my life. What is this? 5th edition, it looks like. I'm looking it up now.
It's a rather old card.
Yeah. All these white borders. Okay. I like it. So, yeah. I like it. We'll see about that one.
Next up, I got another D&D card. You know me, I love these cards. It's a Robe of the Arch Magi. It's 2 colorless and a blue for an artifact equipment. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw that many cards. It is equipped 4, but it also reads, equip Shaman, Warlock, or Wizard 1.
That's great. Wizards. That's great, yeah. Like, I didn't even realize I had so many wizards. I know I had that 1 land card in there. That was mostly to protect my commander, but yeah, after going through and seeing that I do have a couple of wizards in here, and it's another card that I've never noticed. I don't pay attention to blue. I really just don't. So, yeah. Some people might be like, of course, our Robe of the Arch Magi, but that's great. And there's a couple of cards on here that pump up your creatures every time you draw a card, so you get something big. So, yeah. You get a 5 cost, a creature with 5 toughness or power. And you swing in, you equip it for 1, draw 5 cards. That's good. That's a good addition. That one is definitely going in there. And it's cheap. 25 cents. I probably even have this card. I have to go look. It's probably in a box somewhere.
I have pulled a couple of these cards, so yeah. My last card I'm going to recommend is I'm a big fan of removal that is really hard to get rid of, and that usually comes in the form of enchantments. One of my favorite cards is Kenner's Transformation. It's an enchantment aura that enchants a creature for permanent and makes it into a 3/3 elk. And this is really good for like when someone has a certain commander that you don't like a lot, that you really just want to get rid of, like a Joda Unifier or that new Thalia the Givrog monster. And so I bring you the blue edition, Imprisoned in the Moon. This is 2 colorless and a blue for an enchantment aura. You may enchant creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap to add a colorless, and it loses all other card types and abilities. It's a little mean.
That is rough. That is
very
rough.
Strong.
It turns into
a land.
It's a land, so someone can't even get rid of it unless
because we don't. Yeah,
unless they have land destruction in their deck, right?
That or enchantment removal.
Yeah,
enchantment removal is hard to come by these days, so
I like that. Yeah,
it's very strong.
I had bought this card for another deck, and then never built it. So I know I have this card somewhere too, which is just fantastic as well. But yeah, that's I like that. I like that.
It's really strong. I like it.
Very strong, and that's gonna piss somebody off, and that makes it even sweeter,
Yeah. All right. So I've given you 15 cards. I think you should add to the deck. I think we gotta sit down and talk about some cuts because you got too many cards.
This is gonna be hard. I'm gonna get defensive. I warned you ahead of time.
So let's knock it out from the top. I suggest that we cut Mordenkainen and Teferi Temporal Pilgrim. Here's my reasoning.
Okay, let's hear it.
I am not a fan of high-costed planeswalkers. I think 6 mana and 5 mana is a little much. They do get some benefits right away, I'll admit, with Mordenkainen. I'm a little bit more on board with Mordenkainen than I am Teferi.
Yeah.
Because it does come in with 5 loyalty, and you can -2 it twice, or you can +2 it. You know, I think that's a good one. But I'm just not a big fan of these like high-costed planeswalkers that like don't immediately either get rid of the board or make you win the game kind of things. You know?
Yeah, and what the big draw for the Teferi Temporal Pilgrim was, it's just got a static ability on there. Whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on Temporal Pilgrim. So it comes in with 4 loyalty. Its +0 is you get to draw a card. The -2, it's garbage. But then its ultimate is -12. Target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to their hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into their library. So -12 is a lot for an ultimate. But if you're drawing so many cards, because whenever you draw a card, so you have one of those wheels where you're drawing 7 cards. That's 7 counters that's going on them. But no, I do agree, because that's a lot to get up to that -12, and then it's target opponent. It's one person. That might be a little too situational. So I definitely agree with that cut. The Mordenkainen, that was gonna be hard. I liked that card a lot. So
I mean, after you talked about it, I realized like, hey, it is a good card. I just, as someone who runs a planeswalker as their commander, I recognize how easy it is for planeswalkers to get taken out. Now, granted, you are running a deck that makes a lot of tokens, so you probably would have a good number of blockers for it to get to that -10 if you really wanted to. And I will say the -2 to make the blue dog illusion, that's power and toughness is equal to 2 times the number of cards in your hand. You are going to have a very full grip most of this game. I do think that's a good, strong one. So it is kind of, after you've explained your reasoning, it is kind of one I'd say maybe consider keeping it.
okay, all right, good. Wait, and I liked what you did too. With the here are 15 cards to add, and here are 10 cuts. So I don't have to make all the cuts or make all the additions here. So that's definitely, that one's on the fence. But Teferi, yeah, I agree with that. That card needs to go. What else you got?
I got 2 instants that I think we should cut.
Okay.
All right. First up is Disallow. This is 1 colorless, 2 blue for an instant. Counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. The reason I threw out an offer you can't refuse is just because it's a cheaper counter spell. I get this one does activated or triggered abilities.
Yeah, that was mostly
but it's
it.
3 mana. You got to leave 3 mana open. It's kind of that situation where I was like, let me get him a better counter.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking this kind of definitely helps with any activated abilities of Gisheth attacking and drawing all those cards, or an Aetherflux Reservoir or something like that, where being able to counter an activated ability or a triggered ability, I think is very helpful, just because it's not something that a lot of people are expecting too. Most people are expecting, all right, Dragon's coming in, he's got haste, he's swinging in, and I'm playing. It's like, nope, that's not happening. And being able to play something like this, so yeah, I do think I'll probably add an offer you can't refuse. Disallow, I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to see what other cuts you recommend to see if this one gets cut too. Just because I do like the activated ability or triggered ability counter. I think, what's the other? There's one other card that does that, and the name is escaping me right now. But I run that in a couple decks too, and I haven't gotten to use it as much as I would like to, which isn't really helping my case right now. But it's going to happen one day, and it's going to be awesome.
The other instant I suggested cutting was another counterspell. It's Wizard's Retort. 1 colorless, 2 blue. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a wizard. Counter target spell. Another one where I was kind of like, I mean, you are running a lot of wizards, and so this is pretty much just a counter spell with a different name. And so like I could see why that's good. I just went and looked. I think in total currently you're running 3 to 4 counter spells. Because you are running Soul Read, which is 3 colorless and a blue for choose 1 counter target spell unless controller plays 4 or you can draw 2 cards. So that's a card draw counter spell right there. So I think while blue is good at countering, maybe too many counter spells is not the way. Don't become what you hate, Lazz.
I know, but I'm so scared of losing all my Drakes, and so
that's fair.
Yeah, that's why I had a couple of these counter spells. I was trying to kind of load up on counter spells, but yeah, I might have too many. How many did you say I had? 4 counter spells?
I think 4 total. If you edit an offer you can't refuse, that'd be 5. So that's why I picked the 2 counter spells that I most was like, I don't really enjoy these. And I gave you 1 back in return.
Okay. Hey, I like it.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Let's see what else I got here. So let's talk about the board wipe cut. Spectral Deluge. Here's my issues with it. I think the issue being is, so you can foretell it for cheaper, right? But it's a sorcery. Can you foretell cards at instant speed though?
No, it has to be as a sorcery. So it'd only be during my turn.
You're still waiting for this to come to your turn. So if someone drops a bunch of hasty creatures, you're kind of screwed. Now, granted, the one I gave you, Inundate, also a sorcery. So I don't know. It's kind of
on the fence there.
Which one do you feel better about?
Yeah.
Do you want to return with extra less equal to your islands, or you just want to get rid of all non-blue?
Probably I guess non-blue, because yeah, I guess that makes sense. Just because if you don't have, enough islands too, or say you only, for whatever case, you only have 6 or 7 islands, and someone does have an Ur-Dragon or a Gisheth or something out there, then I guess not Ur-Dragon, he would count as blue. But some of those bigger creatures, you're probably not going to be able to return those. So this would be good for Spectral Deluge. Would be good for bouncing back a lot of smaller creatures, but I guess hopefully I have enough, 2/2 Drakes that I can chump block with, so that returning smaller creatures shouldn't really be as much of a threat. I think taking care of all these big blue creatures would probably be better. So no, I like it. I like it.
All right. I did cut 1 land, but my thought process was I'm giving you Seagate Restoration instead.
How dare you? You just yelled at me for not having nearly enough lands in these other...
I did. Hey, I gave you a land back.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest we cut Remote Isle because it enters the battlefield tapped to add a blue, and I see where you were going with the cycling thing.
Right.
Here's my thing. I think cycling is a bad mechanic. Paying 2 mana to discard it and draw a card kind of feels bad.
Well, I'm hoping this is going to be one of those, I have more lands and I know what to do with, and then I draw this. It's like, all right, discard it, draw a card. That'll be my second card for the turn. There's my Drake, and also you get another card in hand. So, yeah, if this is your opening hand or one of the first lands that you're going to have to play, then yeah, that's a feels bad card. Entering tapped.
I mean, yeah, you never want you'd rather an island come down. You could tap it to add, play wizard class, play one of your 1-cost spells, things like that.
Okay,
so, yeah, that was just a land I was going to suggest cutting.
All right.
I got 2 enchantments.
Okay.
First up, this one might be heresy to some people. This comes from a place of I know you as a player, Lazz, because I've been playing with you for the past 6 months. Mystic Remora.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you would enjoy paying a cumulative upkeep that keeps going up and up. And at most, I'm thinking you get 3 to 4 cards off this. Now, for 1 mana, that's good, but I think you're going to want to play a card a turn, don't you? You don't want to constantly be having to pay the 1, pay the 2, pay the 3. Okay, let this card die. You know what I'm saying?
I think that happened with one of our friends once. He's like, "Can someone please kill this Mystic Remora for me?" So, all right, yeah. No, that's I agree with that. And cumulative upkeep is definitely something I've never had to deal with before, and it doesn't seem fun. It's a great effect on the card, but I think it's probably an effect that I can recreate elsewhere in the deck, and This is kind of really only a good card if you get it early in the game. Otherwise, it's not really paying 4 mana to counter effect. Later on in the game, people will probably have 4 mana to counter some of these effects. If it's a card that they're really counting on, they'll probably leave up some mana for it. So, all right, I agree with that cut. I agree with that.
The enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
Thought reflection. 4 colorless, 3 blue for an enchantment that says if you would draw a card, you draw 2 cards instead. I think it's just too much mana to have an effect that comes too late into the game. Because, I mean, at best, if you're ramping, you get this out like turn 6. At turn 6, the game's really going. And so you want to have already started making drakes. You want to start wheeling. You want to start getting a lot of cards in hand. And I think 7 mana is just too much to get to pay for this effect.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree. My thought was it's kind of like Consecrated Sphinx, but just for me. But yeah, it's 7 mana. I agree with that. That could probably be cut. It's not as good as some of the cards that you suggested. So yeah, that one might have to mosey on out of there. And Mystic Remora. I agree with both those cuts.
All right. I got one creature for you. Mainly because it's just a weird card.
Mm-hmm.
Trawler Drake from the new Phyrexia set.
Yeah.
2 colorless and a blue for a Phyrexian Drake with flying. Trawler Drake enters the battlefield with an oil counter on it. It gets +1/+1 for each of those oil counters. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can put an oil counter on Trawler Drake.
This is one of those cards that I was gonna cut throughout the week, and I was like, okay. I gotta leave it in there. It's a Drake. Your commander says all Drakes. It's not just the Drakes that you make. So I was like, all right, so this is gonna get even bigger. My thinking is because I have so many instants and sorceries in this deck that I'll get +1/+1 each time, and then that'll be even bigger once I wheel or something like that. But yeah, that's definitely wasting a spot. I don't think that's nearly as good as some of the cards you suggested. I think I'd rather have a Mole Drifter or even Laboratory Maniac or something that can kind of help me win a little bit better.
I definitely think there is room to add like a Drake. I just don't think this is the Drake I would add.
Mm-hmm.
I would find a better one. But I see where your thought process was. That's a good backup plan.
But yeah, all right. Yeah, that's cut. It's in the garbage.
All right.
Throwing it away right now.
This last one, I think it's up there with Mordenkainen for me, where I'm kind of like, I see where you're coming from with it. I get why it could work. It's the Magic Mirror.
Okay.
The one we talked about, 6 colorless, 3 blue. It gets cheaper for instants and sorceries. You have no maximum hand size. You put a counter on it at each upkeep. You draw cards equal to the amount of counters. So the reason I went with Midnight Clock over this is because Midnight Clock can at least give you mana.
Okay.
But I think I can also agree with you on the fact that you can get this out pretty cheaply. Because you're going to pay lots of instants and sorceries early on. So, I mean, hopefully by turn 4, this is maybe just a 4-cost card.
Yeah, because I have a lot of 2-cost instants in this deck.
I mean,
so I'm hoping
Brainstorm, High Tide, Opt, a lot of cheap instants and sorceries. So I definitely think you can get it up there. Which, speaking of, we didn't talk about some of my favorite cards. High Tide is a fucking good card.
Yeah, you
1
like
blue
that?
For an instant that until end of turn, whenever you tap an island, you get an additional blue. That's a really good card. I like that card a lot.
I was hoping they'll kind of help with some of these super expensive cards that I have in here.
Definitely. So, I think I did a play test where I had one of the, I think it was Consecrated Sphinx in hand, and I got it out like on turn 4, and like I was like, this is good. so yeah. But so Magic Mirror, I definitely think it could be strong. It's just
situational.
It's very situational because if you get it in your opening hand, it's kind of like it's a dead card for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you draw it after like turn 4, I think it's a great card. So I put it in my cuts, but I think it's in a similar boat with Mordenkainen, where if it's a pet card for you, I would say keep it in the deck.
Okay. Yeah, that one I'll have to think about. That and Mordenkainen I'll have to think about. But yeah, some of these other cards definitely. I see your point. Some of these are not really pulling their weight in the deck. So if we want to fine tune this as much as possible, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like
those are my cuts and additions. How do you feeling? How you feeling about what I suggested?
It's okay. I'm more impressed that I was able to change your opinion on some of these. Where you're like, all right, it's on my cuts, but I see where you're coming from, and that does make sense. But I like it. I don't think any of the cards you suggested make the deck worse, which obviously is the point of why we're doing this. But it definitely helps the deck do what it's trying to do, which is ramp up quickly so that you can just start pumping out these instants and drawing cards. You suggested that one card that lets me shuffle my graveyard back in and draw cards. That's fantastic because my graveyard's going to be filled with all these instants and sorceries, and that's going to be so good to be able to get all that back. When you're casting Brainstorm or Chemist's Insight, these little spells just to draw some cards and being able to then play them again because I shuffle them back in and I'm drawing so much that'll definitely be good. So I think that's very helpful. I'm not mad, Cody. Yeah. I'm not mad at you.
All right.
I understand.
That's all I care.
I understand why you did what you did. I liked your points on that.
All right. So another thing we want to do every episode is take a look at EDH Rec, where we can look at the average deck and see how close the deck you built was to EDH Rec. Because EDH Rec is a great source to go to look at cards that a lot of people are running. I definitely use it a lot for my decks.
Mm-hmm.
I also use Scryfall and things like that, just find cards that I'm interested in. And so I went and compared these two decks because Moxville has a great way of doing that. And
we need that sponsorship.
Lazz, tell me a guess. How many cards do you think you have in common with the average deck?
So I don't think that I was able to get as many deep cuts, some of these cards as I was hoping. So I'm going to say we're probably around, I don't like even numbers here. I'm going to say 83. I think 83 cards are probably the same.
Okay. So I stacked up your two decks side by side. You got 77 cards that are the same in between each deck.
Wow.
Some notable ones. So there's a lot of ones I suggested, like the Philo of Dreams, Midnight Clock, the Sky Diamond, the Seagate Restoration, things like that. A couple I wanted to point out to you that I think are pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
We have Arcanus, the Omnipotent, 3 colorless, 3 blue for a legendary creature wizard. You tap it to draw 3 cards. You can pay 2 and 2 blue to return Arcanus, the Omnipotent, to its owner's hand. Not bad.
Not bad.
They got Consider in here, Ponder, Pongify, Preordain, Rapid Hybridization. Some cheap blue spells that get into your graveyard, right?
Yeah, and single target removal and stuff like that.
Yeah, easy draw 1 cards. Sapphire Medallion. How do you feel about the medallion cards? You like them? You think they're okay or what?
I like them. They're definitely very useful, very helpful. It's just so expensive. And I was trying to keep the cost of this deck down just because as I was building it more and more, I started liking it more and more. And I was like, I don't want to build a $500 deck and then fall in love with it, and then kind of be on the hook for that. So I kind of purposely left some cards out if the price point kind of just didn't really justify the means for me. I like the medallion cards. Sapphire Medallion, though, what was that? It's probably like $35 or
about like $27.
Okay. So, yeah. And I was kind of trying to save some costs. I think this deck came in at what, like $250, $260. I think it was
about $240.
$240. Look at that. Yeah, so very reasonable, but I definitely left some room for improvement because, man, I'll probably drop $300 on a deck. But No, Sapphire Medallion I like. It's expensive, and I'd rather spend that
They
money.
need to reprint those.
Also,
I mean,
they
they're
really
just
do.
nice cards.
I have one medallion card. I have Jet Medallion, and it's in Japanese because it's a little secret there. It's cards are a lot cheaper in other languages. So
Yeah.
something like that. That's nice and simple. I didn't mind doing. I know one of our friends got married. I bought him Great Henge in Korean, I think, and it's just like, good luck, man.
It's an expensive card, yeah.
Expensive
I bought it, and yeah.
In English, you bought it too, Mr. Moneybags over here. But thank God Spell Table can pick it up and translates everything to English because, at least Jet Medallion's like, everything's one cheaper if it's black. It's like, Great Henge, good luck. There's 4 paragraphs on that son of a bitch. But yeah, I could have the Sapphire Medallion, but I probably won't just because I don't play a lot of blue decks, and I don't know, expensive cards like that. I like if I can kind of swap them between decks as needed.
Yeah, I gotcha. One land I wanted to call out today, Ron, is Myriad Landscape, which, because you're in monocolor deck, I do think Myriad Landscape is a good card to add because it gets you 2 for the price of 1 for 2 mana. So
Okay.
just a
Hey, maybe I add that in instead of the the cycling cards. I think I had 2 or 3 cycling cards in there. So
yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
it might be worth cutting one of those.
All right. So yeah, that's how we stack up.
That's how we stack 77. All right, so
Pretty good, yeah.
I'm surprised. I was trying my hardest to not just make an EDH rec deck. Just kind of.
Yeah.
All right, I need 15 creatures, top 15 creatures, need 20. I was trying my hardest not to do that, and I was trying to kind of pick and choose and really make it my own thing. So I'm actually quite surprised that the 77 cards the same. That leaves bad math. 22 cards, that I put in. Well, Commander's the same, right? Does that count the Commander? So
I was going with the 99, but yeah.
So, all right, I like it.
Good job, Lazz.
And thank you. Hey, good job with you. I really like some of these additions. So I'm gonna adjust. I'm trying to figure out what I should do with the Moxfield deck list here. If I should kind of keep the before and the after, kind of leave them both up there.
Definitely. For the listeners, we'll have a before the episode and after episode. There's a way to copy the deck, Lazz, that we can do.
Okay.
So it makes it easier than retyping everything.
Yeah. And do that, and then plus, you can, if you're on the fence about this commander too, or it sounds interesting, and you want to see how it play tested before and how it play tests afterwards, then we'll leave them both up there. But yeah, I'll make some of these changes, and we'll probably discuss that. I'm probably gonna build it. But
well, hey, Lazz, got to answer the question.
I know I got to answer the question. I kind of jumped the gun.
Should we brew it or say screw it?
I think I'm gonna brew it. This deck just seems like a lot of fun. It seems like a lot of fun.
It's fun.
And even kind of, I was trying so hard, like I said, to not tinker with it throughout the week. And the way my personality is, if I'm not tinkering with something, that means I can't look at it. Because as I look at it, I'm gonna touch it. So kind of going through a lot of the cards now and kind of reading it and then getting some of your suggestions. It's like this could actually work. This could actually be a viable deck. Hopefully not just in our pod, but for other people that are kind of thinking about leaning this way too.
Yeah, I play tested it about 5 times on Moxfield, just goldfish and some hands, and I really enjoyed it. I felt like every turn I was doing something. I was drawing card, and like I like drawing cards. I don't feel like my decks do it very well,
Exactly.
And so this deck is all about it. So I'm like, damn, this is fun. It's a lot of fun.
That was some of the inspiration because who doesn't love drawing cards? But man, it's hard. It's hard to draw cards, unless you build specific commanders or you have a specific play type that you're trying to stick to. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of decks, and that's why I was like, I wonder what it's like to draw a lot of cards and to have no hand size.
Yeah,
and
I think this deck does it very well.
I think it does it very well too. So I definitely think this is a brew it.
All right. well, listeners, you're going to have to weigh in. Hit us up on Twitter at Brew It or Screw It. You can comment on the podcast on Spotify and things like that. Let us know. Do you think we should brew it or say screw it? Or will you brew it? Or will you say screw it? Let us know.
Or did we miss anything? Are there suggestions that you have? Or, even if you look on Moxfield and look at the deck list and you're like, there's some real questionable choices in here. I would cut this. By all means, let us know on, iTunes comments or even on the Moxfield comments. I think you can comment on the bottom of the decks and say, you need to get rid of this and this, or bring More Than Kind back because that's a good card. Maybe we'll get some of those comments going. But by all means, please, chime in, because Cody and I, we're not master deck builders. We're not, the be-all, end-all knowledge of Magic. We're not. We're just two people who love playing it and have an unhealthy obsession with researching decks, play styles, cards, and interactions. So this is kind of our best shot at it. So please feel free to comment if you think you got something better, or even if you're just saying, that makes a lot of sense. I really like what you guys do with this, or whatever the case. Please let us know. Even negative comments are still comments. And
let us know. Like, whatever your feedback, we want to hear it. So yeah. Also, Lazz, a 10 out of 10 name for this deck, I gotta say.
Hotline Swinging Drakes. I was cracking up. I had to tell someone about this, and I was trying to keep it a surprise for you, because you were going to have to, get the deck eventually. I didn't want to tell anyone of our friends, because I need to somehow incentivize them to actually listen to this. So I had to tell my wife, but it's not the same when you have to explain why the joke's funny and then tell her the joke and then kind of like help explain it again. So Hotline Swing and Drakes, it's like, I was cracking up. So
that was good. It's good.
I'm glad you chuckled too when you saw your like A+ name. I was like, yes, all right. Thanks for the inspiration.
A good name for a deck, just really, it's
it helps
on it.
It helps. Yeah, I'm playing I downloaded a game. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm just completely changing topics here, but I downloaded a game on PlayStation. It was Darkest Dungeon, which people say is incredibly hard, and you're gonna die, and your characters are gonna die constantly. And all the guides that you read, they're like, do not name your characters, because then you get attached to them, and characters are supposed to be like disposable in this game. It's like once you name something, it's gonna be hard to say screw it. But I'm hoping eventually we get there. We'll have to I don't know. Regardless of what you build next month, I'm just gonna say screw it. Tear that. Tear it apart.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, I think that does it for the show. A couple of housekeeping things. So if you're not tuned into Twitter, we announced that podcast will release the first Monday of every month. So this should be releasing on March 6th. We are doing monthly, so the next episode will be in April. Definitely get your feedback in, how we can improve the show, things like that. Our Twitter is at Brew It or Screw It. I am at Cody Redmoon on there. Lazz, you have to fix your Twitter because you have like 9 million numbers in yours.
I cannot change it. I have no idea. I tried 5 times, and it's like, you wanted this 15-digit code at the end of it, right? It's like, no, I don't. So I will change it. Don't worry. It'll get fixed. But yeah, follow the Twitter. I like what you did this past week, where you kind of were posting pictures from the game that we're currently playing on Spell Table, and man, I think we're about to play in 15 minutes here. So we'll probably do the same. Take some pictures, or if something spicy happens, we'll upload it up to Twitter. So I like that.
All right, yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Lazz. This was a lot of fun.
Cody, thank you. Thanks for the input, the feedback, and it was a good time. Thanks.
All right. And as always, should we brew it?
Or screw it? We're brewing it.